everybody. Welcome back to Create with Kelly. I'm glad you're here today. I have another exciting activity for you all this week. We'll be learning how to make summer journals that you can use all summer long. And of course, be explaining how to make those, and hopefully you'll be able to try it out at home. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all so we can start our presentation. So welcome. Now this summer, my program, Create with Kelly, is going to a virtual summer STEAM camp. So you all are invited too. And I hope you join me as we explore science, technology, engineering, arts, and math this summer through bi-weekly activities. So I'll be doing videos in English and Spanish every other week. And then of course, I got a little photo here on my slide of an emoji pillow. Maybe we'll be making some emoji pillows later. Learn some hand sewing skills. That's a cute project that somebody made at the East Palo Alto Library. And as I mentioned, today we'll be making summer journals. If you haven't heard of DIY before, that means do it yourself. And this is a perfect do it yourself activity. You know, although it's easy to go to the store and buy a notebook for not too much money, it's also really amazing and empowering to make your own books and journals. And so I'm going to be showing you different ways that you can do that today. I have a photo here that shows a couple different actually quite a few different books, journals that I've made, and a few other people too. So there's lots of different variety there. You can get really creative with how you make your books, journals. And I wanted to mention, since it's summer, don't forget that you can participate in our Summer Learning Challenge. And if you do participate, that will qualify you for a chance to win a $1,000 college scholarship. We do a raffle at the end of the summer and select multiple winners. So definitely encourage you to keep learning and reading this summer. You can find more information at www.summerlearners.org. And of course, we love sharing ideas. Of course, you can share what you make with your family and your friends. And if you want to share it with us, we'd love to see what you've been making at home. You can share your projects with us on social media. You can tag us at SMC Libraries. On the screen, it's written out for you there. And you can use the hashtag SMCL Creates. Can't wait to see what you all are making. So let's talk just a little bit about why would we want to make a journal? What can you do with it? Like, again, I mean, I could just go buy one and that's it. But as I mentioned, it's really empowering. Like when I make my own things, it just makes me feel really capable, really like, you know, I can do this. I can do what I want to do, what I set my mind to. And certainly there's so many different things that you can put inside of your journal. Now, since this is a summer journal, you might want to document your experience this summer. You can write in it every day, you know, maybe in the morning when you wake up, or you can write down what you dreamt about, or even in the evening, you know, you can write down what you did. I have some journals from when I was younger, and I love reading them. They're so much fun. I talk about, you know, going to my neighbor's house to play. Although unfortunately we may not be able to do that right now yet, you know, but I also would like write down what I ate. I used to eat ice cream with chocolate powder on top of it. It's called Chocolate Wow. So again, you know, you can write about, you know, what you're eating. You can write down your favorite recipes, especially, you know, a lot of people during the shelter in place, you know, this is a strange and new experience for pretty much all of us, you know, so you know, writing down how you feel most definitely actually helps us, you know, if you write down how we feel, it can kind of let some of that energy out just by writing down your thoughts and ideas. You can, of course, maybe if you're in some other summer programs this summer, you could use this as a notebook. You can take notes about whatever you might be learning about. You can draw in these notebooks, journals. You can start a zine, which is sort of like a self-published magazine That could include writing or drawing or even photographs. You can draw your favorite animals, and there's just so many possibilities and different ways that you can use this. Of course, you can also write your own stories, create your own fairy tales or mysteries, maybe even some scary stories. I know you're out there, future authors. So, just to, kind of talk about different ideas of what we can do with what we create, There's so many possibilities, and so I've shared a few here, a few ideas with you all here. What ideas do you have? How do you think you might use a journal this summer? So something to think about. Let's take a look at some examples. And before I do that, I think it's really important to mention, because I've experienced this myself. Sometimes I don't know how I'm gonna use a journal, or what I don't know. And sometimes that can make me feel like, I'm just not gonna make one. But actually, I have a lot of fun making them. And so sometimes I'll make journals and I don't know necessarily, how I'm gonna use it, but I make it anyway. And then eventually it's like, oh, I need a notebook to, do something with. So just a word of encouragement. You don't necessarily have to know how you will use your journal before you can go ahead and make it. So I find, sometimes our ideas, once we start making things, our ideas come to us as well. So I hope you find a good use for your journal. Here's an example. I've done lots of workshops at the East Palo Alto Library around making books and journals and zines. And here's an example of a book that somebody made. You can say it's very, very decorative. It doesn't look like most of the books in the library. So it's got you could imagine touching that book right now. It's very, very soft. It looks like it has some different types of string and ribbon. And actually it looks like the book, the cover is made out of a piece of foam. And then you can kind of see on the side where the binding that's the edge of the book. Looks like she sewed that. So sewing is one option of how you might want to construct your book. Here are two other examples. And actually the one on the left, that kind of yellow and orange, that one was one that I made and actually inspired somebody during our program. They made something similar that you can tell it's not exactly the same. And just to, demonstrate, that it's really great to share ideas and also see how, I made one that looked like this, and then somebody else made something similar, but looks totally different because, they decided that that was how they wanted theirs to look. So it's really awesome to share your ideas with other people, see how, just how our own creativity can interact with other people's creativity. It's really awesome. All right, so I'm going to go over the supplies, and then we will see a few other examples here as I demonstrate some of the techniques that you can try at home. So I'm going to go over the supplies, and for your reference here, this is a list of the supplies written out. I'm also going to switch my camera so that we can all, not share my screen rather, so that you can see. I'm going to go through the materials here. So let me go ahead and stop that. Gonna switch my camera so you can see my table and all of my supplies. So I bet you can probably even guess one of the most important main ingredients for our books today are paper, right? There we go. So for the pages of your book, you're going to want pretty much probably the easiest type of paper to find, which is like soft, sort of like a notebook paper would work well. You can also use different types, like this is a computer printer paper, and you can kind of see it's moving, it folds, it bends really nicely. It's sort of a soft paper. So those will work really well for the pages of your book. Now there's different colors, of course. These are some that I had at the library. So I've got some purple. This one even has holes in it already. So first you'll want your soft paper to be able to make the pages of your book. To make the cover of your book, it works well if you can find a paper that's a little bit thicker. So this is a type of paper called cardstock. It works pretty well. for the covers of the books. So I have some sheets of that too. And there's another reminder. You can tag us at SNCL Libraries, hashtag SNCL Creates if you want to share your work. Okay, so we got like for the cover as well, other things that might work well. So this was a package of brownies that, you know, comes in a box. And this paper, actually, this type of paper works really well for a cover of a book. Certainly it's a different shape, so you might have to, actually these are some pages I folded that seem like they would fit pretty well inside of there. Of course I could cut this. So you certainly don't have to be limited to, you know, just boring old paper that comes in a pack. You can get a little more creative by, you know, reusing some materials from, you know, things that you buy at the grocery store, such as this case. Cardboard also works pretty well. I have, these are actually some books that I purchased in Argentina, and it's a a publisher that actually you know, purchases cardboard from people in Argentina who gather up a bunch of cardboard and sell it, and then they use the cardboard to create the covers for the books. And it's actually really cool. So you could very simply, I mean, this is just a piece of cardboard cut out. And that could be your cover for your book. All right, in addition to those materials, a few other things that could work for your book. Rubber bands work well to hold all the pages together, which I had this example. There. That's a really simple way to hold that book together. You can also use, I have all kinds of materials always. I've got some yarn here. I have some, actually I have a needle and thread. You can actually sew your pages together is one option. And just different types of thread there. And then you'll also, if you have a stapler, that's another easy way to get your pages to stay together. So a stapler works really well. You'll also need some scissors, maybe need some scissors for this activity. And I don't think we'll need glue actually today. If you have a hole punch though, that also can be a good way to, especially working with yarn, you can tie your book together. So I think that pretty much covers it. Let's go ahead then and make some books. Okay, so there's so many options. But let's start with, you know, probably one of the simplest ones. It's just essentially assembling a book sandwich, as I like to call it. So you can choose how many pages you want. Now this first one is using a stapler. So if you've used a stapler before, you probably know that there's sort of like a limit to how many pages you can staple before the stapler is just like, I can't do it. So you'll want to experiment with that. I don't know the exact number of pages that, you know, probably depends on the stapler, right? But this is the first type of book. I mean, it's just almost so simple that it's like, what? And what I like about this is that it gives you a nice big page. So the first one is essentially, I got my outer covers for my book. So that's using these two cardstock pages, but again, it could be cardboard, it could be, you know, brownie box packaging or whatever food, you know, cereal boxes. It's kind of similar paper. And then essentially you're sandwiching your pages of your book. So I've got this, you know, softer paper on the inside. And essentially all you would do is on one end, you would staple all the way down. And I'm not going to staple because I want to use this paper for a different demonstration, but pretending it's stapled, I now have a simple summer journal. And I think I did decide, I do like, what I like best about this journal is that, again, it's just got these really big pages where you can draw nice big pictures, write really big letters. You know, there's so many possibilities. So that's option one, is just simply stapling all the way down to create that, you know, keeping your book sandwich together, essentially. Now, I actually have made quite a few of these sort of folded book types, and looks like I have a couple different ways that I've done it. So let's go over how you would fold the paper. And for that, I'm gonna need some kind of tool. I think this, I'll use my glue stick. So for this, I'm gonna get my soft paper for the pages of my book. Now you can, of course, just fold all the papers together and staple it. I have an example of that right here. And that is definitely a very simple way to, just really quickly get a bunch of pages together, staple them. Now you'll notice that this book is not like perfectly square, and that is because when you fold everything together, it just doesn't want to sit perfectly square. Now that's totally okay. Like, you can still use this book. It's great. It's excellent. I like that it's not perfect, actually. But if you want to, if you really want those pages to sit nice and tight in there, it helps if you fold one page at a time. So let's go ahead and I'll demonstrate. So I've got one page, and then it helps if you run over the fold with some kind of hard object, essentially. And that essentially just, really gets that crease nice and crisp. And I'm gonna open that up because now I'm gonna fold my next page. And when I fold, I like to match if you really want it to be like really clean looking, I like to match these corners before I fold, and I kind of like, I got it there, I got it there. I'll hold it down on this end where I'm matching those corners, and I'll use my other hand to fold. Again, this is really depending on your preference. If you're not as concerned about it looking super, perfect, or it's not even perfect, but just really matched up. Yeah, you can experiment and practice. Let me go ahead and do one more, just to emphasize the one at a time folding, and that'll make my pages just fit really nice in there together, versus had I just folded all of them together at once. So you can even see there, it's like just kind of nice and crisp, and all those pages are sort of nestled nice and tight in there. So you could also have, that was actually, this is the example from the photo. So this one's sort of similar to the, you folded your pages, right? And then I punched holes right there and there. And you can see, so I've just put my string through there, and that's a simple way to keep your book together. So you can try that with this one. Let's see, my hole punch. Now, hole puncher doesn't want to necessarily, it's kind of hard for me to get into there to make a hole. So I'm just going to put some holes on the ends here. And even with that, that's probably enough. You could also kind of, or rather, punch a hole into this part of the sandwich. So that's another way that you could do it. And then very simple, I've got some yarn here. Let's see, I think I had some cut already. So this one really simply could just be, let's see, maybe I'll bring this thread yarn through here. This one is actually tied up before, I think. Some extra string in there, but still works. So I could keep it like this. I could go into those other holes if I wanted to, but definitely you'll want to tie it or secure it somehow so that it doesn't come out, right? I'm just going to tie a bow. And there's another way to make a simple journal, summer journal. Now the last one I like to show is how you could sew it together. So instead of using this yarn, let me take that out. And Where did I put my needle and thread? Uh-oh. I had it ready. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I have it ready to go. So I've got my thread and my needle. This is an embroidery thread, so it's thicker. And now, so I could just sew directly in here, but I'm actually going to use my needle first to poke some holes. Again, kind of in the fold of the book. Since I'm not using, I think I'm using 3 pieces of paper here, so it's actually not too hard. But if I had a thicker piece of paper or more paper, I'd have to use my muscles a little more. And the reason I'm poking the hole is just so it's a little easier when I go to sew to get the needle and thread through there. And then again, there's a lot of different ways to do this. Actually, sewing on paper is a really great way to just kind of get used to sewing. Art of sewing for practice. And then, so yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can sew it all together. I'm just gonna kind of go, you know, back and forth. So I'm gonna go down, and then now I'm on the other side, and I'm just gonna go back through to the other side. So I'm kind of alternating. So you can see I've got a little stitch there. And I'm back on this side. So lots of different ways that you can make books. You can do it without folding the paper at all and use a stapler. That first option, I do believe you could probably sew that one too. And just keep in mind that the more fabric, or sorry, not fabric, the more paper that you use, the a little more tricky it'll be to get your needle and thread through. And the way that they do actually, so when they make thick books with lots and lots of pages, they actually sew, rather, it's probably a machine at this point, but they sew multiple, ooh, I forgot that there's a special word for it. They sew multiple book sandwiches, as I like to call them unofficially, separately. And I'm just gonna cut. Good idea. I know I was talking about something, but I got distracted. So let me finish making this and then I'll show you what I was starting to talk about. Okay, so now this, since it's sewn, it's really kind of hard for the thread to really like escape from the paper, I think. So like I don't really need a secure knot, but I had this idea just now. So you can see I stitched just up and down all the way down. And then I gave myself a little extra here just to create a nice little bow on the outside. And that was just because that's what I wanted to do. And you, if you make your own books and summer journals too, get to make all those decisions as well. So there's just so many different ways that you can make the books, use the books, the journals. You can call them different things too. So to continue, just real quick before we finish. So as I was saying, I've got here, I've been busy making books. The idea is that when they publish, you know, books, and today it's done mostly with machines, but essentially they would combine multiple mini books, if you will, and then they combine all of this by either sewing across all of the edges here, or a lot of books you'll notice today, they actually glue along this spine of the book. So you can take a look when you're looking at some books, see how they made those books. And again, I hope you all are able to try making a summer journal, and maybe even making more than one summer journal. I'm going to switch my camera real quick just to say goodbye to all of you. And thanks again for joining me. I'll be doing this same program next Tuesday in Spanish. And then in 2 weeks, I'll have another activity for you all. So thank you for joining me for Create with Kelly and our special summer STEAM videos. And I'll see you all in a few weeks. All right, take care.